We have, as I said right before we took that coffee break, some great sessions coming up through the rest of the afternoon, including retail in the GCC and technology, which are going to be coming up next. But before that, we've been talking about vision, we've been talking about views in retail in the Middle East all through the morning. And what we've heard from a number of industry leaders and retail experts sitting at that table around with me, there are some people who haven't quite had a chance to have their say yet. And yet these are people who pioneered retail in this part of the world. So I'm going to ask to have join me on stage Vasu Shroff, Chairman of Regal Traders. Mr. Shroff. Brahm Baksani, Chairman of International Traders. Jackie Punjabi, Co-founder and Group Managing Director of Jackie's Group of Companies. Abdul Mohsen Behbahani, Director, Murad Yusuf Behbahani Group. And Avinash Bal, Chairman and CEO of Hot Brands. We've been looking at a bunch of these young Turks over here, people who moved to this part of the world 18 years ago, 8 years ago, 8 months ago. Minimum 9 months. You've actually got 3 generations in the room over here. Fourth generation. Fourth? You snuck up behind me, didn't you? What's the journey been like?
Well, I can say that we came 1952 here, then I came 55 here, then my son came 75, Raju. And still, as you say, the 4th generation, he can speak better than me nowadays. So, in this field, retail field which we started this, I think so, we are one of you, just say that day by day, बढ़ते जा रहे हैं. Thank you.
Thank you. All yours.
Question is same.
The question is same. What's the journey been like?
Yes, it has been a really exciting journey. It used to be seller's market, and now we have converted that whole journey into buyer's market. I mean, that is the total U-turn. When I came here, there was no electricity, no telephone, no airport, not even a single car on the road. And from that, within the last 50 years, I came here 57 years back. Maybe most of them were not born even. And within that period, the leadership has converted this place to this level. It shows that leadership pays.
Raju mentioned something earlier this morning, and he talked about the change from being traders to being retailers. What brought that journey? What brought that change over? What made it go from a seller's market to actually listening to the consumer in this part of the world?
You know, technology, information technology particularly, and availability of the product, because when I came here, the shipping was not efficient at all, and anything which we used to import will sell out in no time. I think basically retail customers existed always. Now, of course, the number of people have increased, so that retail market has increased too. But obviously, when shopkeepers are there, there has been retail market always.
Perfect. Mr. Punjab?
Well, our journey started from Hong Kong. 1970, Jackie's Group started from Hong Kong as a mail-order company. It was a very different business what we are in today. But the journey has been very pleasant, and I personally believe in one thing, that the business is always young. It's like any other cricket game or football or whatever game. You know, the players keep on changing. My brother and myself, we started together 45 years back. Of course, he passed away 20 years back, but I'm still alive, I'm still around, and I believe work is worship, and I like to go to the office at least 6 times a week. I'm in the shops. I like to be with the salespeople. I like to talk to even the people in the warehouse because they are the ones who are really hardworking. We are hardly working these days. But business is always young, and customer is a king, and we believe, yesterday also we had some meeting with our supervisors. I learned something new today also, that it has to be emotions and the loyalty. So we are young, we still keep on learning, and although I am 64, my son is one of the speakers later this evening, Ashish Punjabi. They have taken over the business from me. I'm still enjoying being around.
So we've talked all morning about technology. What's your take on that? Is it ever going to replace that man walking into the store, talking to the staff, walking into the warehouse, checking up on things 6 days a week in the office?
Yes, I believe so. Because personally, I believe, I like to go around because it's an exercise for me also, To go to the warehouse, I keep walking up and down, look at the stores also, go and look at the products. I learned myself because I cannot go and go for product training and all that. So I learned from our staff that what are the new products, like new phones, new TVs. I have a latest model of TV at home, 78-inch Samsung. I have 79-inch LG. So I enjoy, of course, whatever 1 hour or 2 hours I am at home. The rest of the day I'm out, or I love going to the gym every morning because I feel you have to be very healthy because health is your wealth. Having a money in the bank accounts and buildings and all that is not your wealth. If I'm fit like Mr. Vasu Shroff, he came to Dubai in 1952, but I'm born in 1952. So I'm still a kid in front of him, and we have to learn a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. I came here in Dubai in 1991, and Burjuman, the first Western-style shopping center, was being built. And what really excited me was the concept of a food court, which was the first of its kind in this region. And I just felt that this concept is going to take off whenever the retail environment took off in Dubai. And we identified ethnic cuisines as a niche market that was not there at that time. And we opened up the first concept in Burjuman, followed by 2 more. It was making huge losses for the first 3-4 years. But I think the whole scenario changed after Dera City Center was built. We were fortunate to be there. And being first to the market, when the real growth started after 2001, we just had the opportunities being first to the market. So in fact, shopping centers asked us to open up concepts for them. So Japanese, Indian. We were making a lot of mistakes, but no one knew. So we had the luxury of correcting ourselves and educating ourselves along the way, which proved to be very, very beneficial coming first to the market. We are now, this platform gave us the opportunity to expand elsewhere. We are now in Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, India, and the US. We have launched a new brand in the US as well. It was all because we started business here, in Dubai.
How steep has the learning curve been?
It's been huge because I don't think even now, I think there are very few ethnic cuisine standardized concepts anywhere. I mean, they're now starting to come about even in the West. So there was no one really, we couldn't copy McDonald's, we couldn't copy anyone because the whole operation was very different from it. So we had to come up with our own systems, and we had to come up with, it's a whole different way of people think that casual dining, fine dining is similar to, but this is different. This is quick service. We do over 1,000, 1,200 customers, 1,500 customers sometimes in a day, and that's huge volumes. So learning from in Burjuman, when we started, there were hardly 40 customers a day or 30 customers a day. But now we do these kind of numbers, so you can imagine what kind of a learning curve that was, along with the systems that had to be built, the infrastructure that had to be built, the training, So it was very exciting. It, it allowed us to do some cutting edge stuff.
You notice I've been moving progressively lower in age, right? Yeah. So we now come to the youngest one over here.
My grandfather was started with Omega, the first brand, and he expanded for the watches and jewelry.
And what now? Because that's a segment in which there is competition, but on the other hand, the entire world comes here to shop. So how do you stand out from everyone else in the region?
There is competition, and we try to help customer to make him happy, and that's it.
If you can make the customer happy, that's all it takes. Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to keep you here on stage for a while. And I'm also going to ask Nisreen, can I get you back up here, please? Thomas? Did Thomas disappear? Thomas did. Khurshid? And Mona? And now, ladies and gentlemen, could I get Rupkatha on stage to talk about visions, views, and can I please ask your indulgence? She's been throwing up for the last 24 hours, having to make a public appearance and a public speech. So would you all please be very, very gentle, very, very kind. Let's start by giving her a round of applause. Would that make you feel better?
Much better. Thank you.
There? There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for...
Feel free to boo after she's done.
Thank you for joining us at the Middle East Retail Forum 2015. And I hope you're finding 2015 MRF as interesting and insightful as the editions before. The Team Retail Emmy seeks to leverage MRF as a platform to exchange ideas and knowledge. And it is this belief in the power of ideas and the power to dream that we started the new column in our magazine, Retail Thoughts, in 2014. Subsequently, we spoke to 30 of these retail stalwarts in the region, questioning and understanding their stories of struggles and successes. And today, I proudly present to you Vision and Views chronicling 30 of these highly interesting and enriching stories. Hope you'll find these stories as interesting, as enriching as our experience has been. May I now call upon our Chairman Managing Director, Mr. Amitabh Taneja, and Images Retail Emmy Managing Editor, Mr. Lawrence Pinto, to join us on stage to unveil Vision and Views. Thank you very much for your attention. The book is available outside, and I'm sure you guys are waiting to take a look at it. Thank you once again, and have a great 1.5 days ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupkatha. For someone who was so incredibly nervous, that was a great job. Let's move back to doing some real work now. We focused on a number of finer details, but let's talk about the GCC retail scene. How is it shaping up in the region? A couple of highlights that I'd like to share that we've had reported over the last few months in this year. Research from A.T. Kearney's annual Global Retail Development Index for 2015 ranks Qatar 4th among 30 key developing countries for its potential as a retail investment destination. The UAE ranks 7th. Other GCC countries like Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Oman figure in the index despite the market saturation that we're seeing in the UAE, the increased country risk that we're seeing in parts of the world, and GDP slowdown from falling oil prices. Nielsen complements this with its Consumer Confidence Index, indicating that consumer confidence increased in 3 of 5 countries measured in the Middle East Africa region in the first quarter of 2015. At 115, the UAE had the highest index in the region, and confidence has increased 5 points in Saudi Arabia to 107. On that note, I promised him his day in the sun a little earlier this morning, so I'm going to ask Mehboob Murshid, Managing Director of Alpine Capital, Middle East, which offers a comprehensive range of financial advisory services, as he mentioned this morning, to talk about research on the GCC's retail industry.
Good afternoon. I think we are late in terms of the time frame we had. All of you must be very hungry, so I'll try to make it as short as possible. As I said earlier that, I represent an investment bank. We have been in this market for the last 10 years. We interact with a lot of retailers who are our principal clients, and the feedback we get from them gives us a good perspective of the market, the current situation, the challenges, the concerns, and the future opportunities. So I'll try just to run you through a small presentation which will give you perhaps a good perspective how we view the market now and going forward. Retail is one of the mainstays of the regional economies. It contributes about 12% of the GDP. Oil and real estate is the first and second and third is the retail. And this sector is getting more prominence going forward because of deep oil prices. And there will be a lot of investments as we move forward. It has grown 7% in the last few years. Current size of the market is about $200 billion, which is, as I said, it's about 12% of the total pie. And the reason for this stellar growth are the following, that people have huge purchasing power in this part of the world. This is perhaps the richest region in the world. The global average for per capita income is about $15,000, and in the Middle East is $60,000. The chart shows the various countries, how they fare in terms of per capita income. And this region is populated by very young population who are very brand savvy. They look for fashions. They look for new ideas. They're exposed to the new formats and new technologies. They go to internet. They have the social networking. So they always look for new things to buy. So that gives us further impetus to the growth. You can see that, I think you mentioned earlier that AG card. This is perhaps dated. This is a 2013 number, which shows that 4 countries featured in the AT Kearney rating from the Middle East. First one was UAE, but my friend mentioned that it is now Qatar that has come forward, and the Kuwait, Saudi, and Oman. And more interesting, that the Middle East still boasts to be the second region which has most number of international brands being present in this part of the world, after London. A lot of people might wonder why, in the West, there are not so many, big shopping and retailing activities have been going. Why do they have so brands? The primary reason being a lot of Indian, Asian brands which are not present in the Europe or America, they are present in Dubai. So Dubai, GCC at this point has the second largest number of international brands being present. Now I'm going to the region, just a little bit about the UAE, which is at the forefront of retailing. Dubai accounts for 65% of the GCC retailing pie. But if you take the UAE as a whole, it's 25%. And largest being the Saudi, which is 45%. But then again, the size and scale is different, Saudi being much more populated than UAE. Dubai has 2.1 million square meter of retail space, developmental space, which is unparalleled in the region. This is the biggest number. Dubai and the UAE recognized as a most sophisticated transshipment hub. If I mention three things, perhaps it'll give you a better perspective. Dubai has the biggest free zone in the world. The Jebel Free Zone has 1,500 companies registered there, number one. Dubai has the second biggest container port in the world at this point, and they are slated to be number one in 2030. Dubai Airport is the second busiest airport in the world after London. 70 million passengers have gone through Dubai Airport in 2014. So that gives a perspective that how important the UAE plays in the landscape of GCC retail market. Now I will just go over to what the current situation in terms of current status, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges, and what are the concerns in this market. We call it good, bad, and ugly. As I mentioned earlier, that this is a very young population. They are exposed to internet, so they are buying a lot more. Young means that 65% of the population, 58% of the population is between age 15 to 44. They are highly inclined to new brands, new ideas, new kind of retailing. There are 200 different nationalities living in the GCC, which speaks about the volume that one can generate in this part of the world because of diverse tastes and fashions they look for. The growing affluence, as I mentioned, that it's the richest region perhaps in the world. And if you look at the future, the number of millionaires, billionaires, or even we have put three categories, which we call it ultra net worth individual, 30 million plus, people who have 100 million plus, and billionaires. If you look at each segment, the expected growth will be at least 30% till 2023. So that shows the kind of purchasing power people have to spend on retailing. And last one is tourism. Tourism is, again, is a big factor for pushing the retailing in this part of the world. Tourism has grown 7.7% in the last 5 years. Current size, is 35 million tourists come to this part of the world at this point. And if you look at Saudi, it gets about 2 million people, but rest comes to Dubai, Qatar, Oman. But what brings crowd, the tourists here, are a few things. For example, Saudi, for example, is for religious reasons. Dubai has the tallest tower in the world. Mall of Emirates is another attraction. They are the ongoing things, but there are a lot of one-off factors which also brings crowd to this part of the world. We have Cityscape, we have GITEX, we have Dubai shopping festivals. They are the attractions that draw a lot of crowd to this part of the world. And in terms of logistics, the three largest airlines in the world, the Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar Airways, they are housed here. So that helps in terms of bringing the tourists from overseas and transporting them back. A few things like here, the hotels or best hotels you get, the best logistics you get easy credit, you name it, that some of it's so competitive the market. Some of the financial institutions even offering 0% interest on if you buy something. So these are things that actively being pursued and is giving results in terms of boosting the retailing in this part of the world. Now, there are a few challenges in this industry now. One is dependence on the expatriate force. Most of the 80% of the the workforce we have available is from overseas, and it has huge challenges in terms of getting the permission to hire people, in terms of the regulations. For example, in Saudi now they have instituted the regulation that after 5 years unskilled laborers cannot work there. In Kuwait they have said they will give only one renewal, so that may be 4 years. So that has put huge pressure on the retailers in terms of new hiring, retraining, and it puts part of the pressure on the margin on such business. And since it's dependent on the expatriates, the high attrition rate is also impacting the market because people also want to go on their own in a big way every few years. And as you know, that getting visas, getting permissions is a huge expense for the retailers. Competition has heightened in this part of the world. Major international brands are vying for space, except for UAE or Riyadh. Many places they don't have sophisticated malls for the international brands to be housed. That creates pressure on the international brands to come and operate here. And new emerging trend is that a lot of homegrown brands are now taking space in the retail area. For example, if you know that Splash, I'm talking about the clothing, Splash, Max, these are coming here eating market share from international brands. And the food space even more intense. Al-Kabir, for example, is a brand. American is a brand. They are eating into the pie from international brands who have been here for many, many years. There's huge pressure on the international brands to maintain and grow the market share. This is the generic comment. We discussed earlier also that a lot of international brands or retailers have not spent enough money on the online. Still, people prefer to go and buy from the store. We talked about the in-store experience, but to grow the sales, to increase the size of the pie, they need to invest a lot more in this space. And the last one is the counterfeit products. This is a huge challenge for retailers in this part of the world. If you go to, even in Dubai, you'll find Louis Vuitton bags in Karama. And it not only impacts the image of the international brands, and although the government is trying to impose fines, restrictions, but still the gray market is growing, and that creates further pressure in terms of sales volume of the international brands in the GCC. Now we'll talk about the areas of concern. Rental rates. I think all of you agree that rental rates have been going through the roof in this part of the world, more so in UAE. At least 54% increase in rentals have been witnessed in last year in the primary malls and 40% secondary malls. In our role, we talk to a lot of retailers. Some of them at times make a comment that we are only working for the mall operators, not for ourselves. So that's a challenge to manage the cost. Deep on oil prices. So this is a new thing that has come about in the last 1 year. The oil prices have, as you know, just from $115 to $45, $50 now. So that has put huge pressure on the government for infrastructure expense, and that could potentially lead to cut in the employment levels in this part of the world, which means the purchasing power size will come down drastically, perhaps, if oil prices don't go back up. And this will also impact the inflow of the tourists from countries like Russia or China, where because of, Russia and also Saudi Arabia, in fact, because Russia, is hugely dependent on the oil, and because of the dip in the oil prices, the revenue has shrunk for the government. People are not getting enough money in the pocket to come to this part of the world. Even people who are coming from Saudi to UAE, As we hear from the hoteliers that a lot of customers, lots of tourists who used to come, they have reduced drastically in the last 1 year. Rising dollar is it's open question. We have that a lot of countries, because dirham is pegged, they find coming to the Middle East expensive now. For example, Russian, Chinese tourists, the arrival have gone down drastically in the last 1 year. In fact, if you notice that even this is having impact on the real estate sector in UAE. People say the Russians who used to buy in big volumes, because the exchanges is not unfavorable now, they're not coming in big way and having impact on that. Even Chinese people, because Chinese renminbi has been depreciated against dollar, which is pegged to the UAE dirham. The Chinese tourists are also coming in less numbers in the recent months. Political instability, important one. I'll give an example. I was talking to one of my friends. He owns a travel agency. He said that one Chinese family booked to come to Dubai, and they're about to come. Suddenly, they found out that the war is going on in Yemen. And they felt, and they also knew that, that UAE government is participating in the war. They felt the country is exposed to war, so they canceled the trip. So this political instability, war in Yemen or Iraq also has huge impact in terms of tourists being, the volume to this part of the world. These are some emerging trends that we notice now in the market. I'll not go into details. From e-commerce to mobile, all the retailers are putting a lot of apps on the mobile phone, and that is having, is a new trend that's emerging in this space. A lot of homegrown brands I mentioned already, both in the food and non-food items. And in fact, in food is more intense than non-food. Convenient stores. If you remember, 10 years ago, people are going to Carrefour in our city center for shopping. But because of the growth of traffic, people now prefer to stay in the community, and community malls are becoming more and more popular. And finally, is our view on the outlook. We discussed most of it, but one thing I would like to highlight is that the one thing is the food retail is growing exponentially. If you look at this chart, the growth in the food sector in retailing is much more than the non-food. The reason being the expat population prefer not to cook anymore in the kitchen. They go out and buy food from the grocery stores or the supermarkets. So there's a huge shift, and that's why the growth in food sector is much more than the clothing or others. Another thing I would like to highlight is from the unknowns, uncertainties, we covered most of it, the bank's liquidity. Because of the dip in oil prices, governments are now sort of forced to borrow from the banking sector, and that is sucking up a lot of liquidity in the market. And if you look at the recent AD ratio, asset to deposit ratios, even a few months ago it used to be 84, 85 on an average from the banking sector. It has shot up to 102 now, because Qatar government has issued bonds, Saudi government has issued bond, UAE government is expected to go into the market as well. That is one, the government is taking liquidity. Secondly, the inflow of deposits also come down because of the dip in the oil prices. This will have huge impact for retailers in terms of accessing the financing and at the same time the cost. Because as the liquidity dries up, the prices for the interest rate for funding will go up dramatically over the next few years. And as you perhaps know, that a lot of impact is also happening in terms of people are losing money because of fall in the commodity prices. So banks are also incurring huge losses. You must have seen today's newspaper, CBI has reported loss, UNB has reported loss. So once the banks make more provisions, liquidity dries up, prices will go up, which will put further pressure on the margin of the retailers in this part of the world. That is our view. But to conclude, I will say the outlook for steel retail looks good. The fundamentals continue to be strong, and we feel there are further opportunities for investment in this space. Thank you. If you have any questions, please.
Thank you, Mehboob. It's nice to know that there is still hope, and despite what you had on a couple of your slides with the gloom and doom, 7% compounded annual growth rates, 10% compounded annual growth rates, I don't think you can hope to expect those anywhere else in the world. So for all the doomsayers that we had in the audience that said that retail in the Middle East is going to be dead soon, I'm glad you've given us another picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to technology now, something that took up a lot of space in the morning's discussion. It is one of the two biggest influences of retail today, apart from consumer behavior. Now, whether it's replenishment or digital marketing, online purchase behaviors, in-store experiences, it is probably the biggest catalyst of modern retail strategy. To elaborate on the crucial role of technology in retail, we have a technology specialist who works closely with retailers and hospitality providers to provide input on how to face the challenge of a new retail landscape. A landscape where customers are more often connected and informed than shop floor staff. He's worked closely with retailers on the pain points in the industry today and explains how technology solutions can be an integral part of your business strategy to help solve real business challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, we heard from him briefly earlier this morning. Would you please welcome back Mark Thompson?
Good afternoon, everyone. So, the first thing I'm going to say is that I upset a lot of people a lot of the time, especially technology companies, because one of the things I do believe is that you actually shouldn't have a technology strategy. Your retailers, you should have customer strategies, you should have business operations strategy, business models. I was at an event last week in London, and the event was all about the Internet of Things. And again, I upset a lot of people because I said retailers should not have an Internet of Things strategy. And do you know what? Most of the retailers in the room nodded. Because the reality is they don't think about Internet of Things. They think about customers. They think about understanding their business better. And it's the solutions in those areas where you should have a strategy. The Internet of Things is an enabler. Technology is an enabler. We will see some of those technologies here. And what I'll show you is some that look at some technologies that are around about the area of data gathering, how do we use data. So whether you call it big or small doesn't really matter. Data by its very nature now is big. The thing about big data is we now have the tools to be able to manipulate that, but it's about gathering that data in, analyzing that data, but the real value comes when you put that data into the hands of the people that need it to be able to make decisions. And it doesn't matter what tool you use. It's about gathering that data. It's about understanding the process of what data do my staff need? How do I keep my store managers walking around the store rather than sitting in an office? How do I allow them to manage their relationships with their staff and their staff's relationships with customers, whether that customer is in the store or online? Because actually, as somebody pointed out before, it doesn't matter whether the customer buys online or in the store. We should reward that customer and the stores in exactly the same way. So I'll keep the slides bit very, very short because I've got 3 videos to show you as well. This is going to be the shortest bit because this is the typical technology company talking about themselves. But by its very nature, we have transformed our business. We have to follow the technology trends, the Internet of Things, cloud, mobility. And we use the current technologies that we're involved with, things like wireless LAN, so wireless, whether it's free Wi-Fi for customers or wireless LAN for staff in the store, RFID. Everyone's talking about RFID now, especially if you're in the apparel space. But is it about the technology? No, it's about understanding and having better visibility of what's in stock, knowing what customers have taken into the fitting room so that actually you can deliver them better experiences. So we've got lots of stories around those areas. Andy Clark, the chief exec of Asda, which is, depending on which statistics you read, either the second or the third largest supermarket retailer in the UK. But what he said recently was that we've seen more change in the last 5 years than in the previous 25. And I think that's telling. The challenge is, as retailers, we're not used to moving that fast. We're used to trying to take anything we buy, any investments we make, and stretch them for as long as we can. And now we're almost being forced to move things much faster than we're used to. So there are pressures there. Can technology help? Of course technology can help. But again, it's not about the technology. So we look at it in three ways. First of all, how do we break it down? Let's talk about connecting with customers, because they're the key part of this. We talk about the customer is king. Well, how do we make that real in a physical store, in an online store, and in a mobile store? Because online is no longer sitting at home. Online is actually wherever I am as an individual. So what sort of things are we looking at? We're looking at helping the shopper in the store, giving the staff the tools to do the job, allowing customers. We saw a good example this morning. Allowing that customer, even though she didn't want to buy that handbag at that point in time, she was interested in the handbag. Well, how do I keep that interest level going? Can I allow her to add that handbag to a favorites list somehow, even though she's in a physical store? She can do it online if she's on the website. How do we transform that into a store? There was the example, I think Debbie mentioned it, from the cinemas. And I am guilty of this. I go to the cinema and I watch all the trailers for the movies, and then I watch the actual main movie. And while I'm watching the trailers, I'm thinking, that looks like a really good movie. I need to go and see that. Well, as soon as I've walked out of the main movie, I've forgotten what the trailers are. So can we find some way of adding that trailer to a favorites list or a playlist so that I come back? Maybe there's something on my seat that I can just simply type my phone number into, and then it sends those details to me, or that trailer clip to my own site. Thinking of ways to engage better with the customer. Understanding where customers are. We know now the technology is available. Michael showed a video this morning about the guy in the car, and the car knowing that it was about to break down, but automatically scheduling some service, getting a taxi cab. That predictive technology is already available. Amazon and Google have both invested heavily in those areas. But also, it's great for us to be able to know who's in the store. And we all have loyalty programs of some sort. They are evolving. But wouldn't it be great to be able to use the wireless and these new things called beacons, which are actually fairly old-fashioned technology because it just uses Bluetooth, to be able to understand exactly who's come into the store, how long do they spend in the store, whereabouts do they go, so the heat maps in there, and be able to potentially engage with them in the store. And then making sure the checkout works for the way customers now want to shop. I know there are things like Apple Pay out there, and I'm using Apple Pay because I thought as a technology spokesperson, I ought to be able to try and use some of the technology. It's not that easy, but it's getting easier to be able to pay at the checkout by simply tapping my phone on the checkout. So payments are changing as well. And people are investing, retailers are investing heavily in this. The interesting thing is that investment is not necessarily from the IT department. And one of the things we talked about this morning was breaking down those silos. So it's no longer marketing departments, IT departments, supply chain, operations, etc. It's actually about the whole business focused on retail and building that retail business around the customer. It's almost going back to old-fashioned retail, where we just focus about the retail business and stop putting people into these different departments, or at least making sure these departments work closely with each other rather than fighting each other. Anybody still work in a retailer where you've got the online business, the e-commerce business has its own P&L, and the stores business has its P&L, and the two of them don't like each other because they're competing with each other? Let's break down those barriers. And CVS in the States have tripled their investment in digital technology. But again, a lot of it comes from the marketing team, not from the IT team. So let's see how one retailer, and I call Amazon a retailer because they have transformed retail, but they're also transforming how we think about retail, how we engage with customers, how we think about customers where they are, not where we are as a retailer. So hopefully, we'll play.
If you're like me, I get tired of always wanting to know stuff. it gets pretty frustrating. That's where Amazon Dash saves the day. With that simple design, it makes ordering groceries a piece of cake. Just hold down the voice button and say anything you want. It's always ready to go.
Chocolate chips.
And the barcode scanner is really fun to use. You never have to worry about being out of something you need. With Amazon Dash, you can order over 500,000 items.
Guitar strings. Strawberry yogurt. Apples.
You can check out from the Amazon Fresh website or smartphone apps. Most orders arrive the next day. And things get delivered right to your door. How cool is that? No more parking lots, waiting in lines, or losing kids in the store. Now you'll have more time in your day, so you'll never miss those special moments. Amazon Dash. Shopping made simple. How was that, Dada?
So it's not all about future technology. Current technology, by the way, nothing to do with Zebra. It's just using a scanner in the home, scanner with a bit of memory and some voice recognition software that simply links to the app. It's changing the way people shop and think about shopping. That's big competition for existing mass merchandisers and grocers, etc. And the UK guys are getting fairly scared because Amazon is expected to launch Amazon Fresh in the UK next year. They've already trialed it in Birmingham and in London. So these things are coming, and Amazon is spreading its net further. How can we also engage staff? Make staff more productive. Whenever I talk to retailers, it almost always comes back to the basics. How can I sell more products, and how can I run my business more efficiently, or better productivity, lower costs, etc.? Can you show me ways to do that? Because that's the reality of retailing today. Margins are under pressure, so show me a way, not just to spend money on your technology, but to reduce my costs and make my business more efficient. So if we got rid of some of the tannoy announcements, let's say the tannoy announcements are for more people to go to the checkouts, to open new checkouts. Well, that's probably a reaction to the fact that we've got queues building up at the checkouts. So somebody, whose job it is to see those queues and to get onto the tannoy and to say, we need more checkouts, please. Can all till train staff go to the checkouts? Why don't we get more predictive about that? If we can understand how many customers are flowing through the store, and we know how long it takes customers to get around the store, then surely we know that in 15 minutes we're going to need more checkouts open. So why don't we make sure that the staff are connected somehow, whether it's a mobile phone, whether it's a voice badge or something, or a mobile computer, it doesn't really matter. Connect them somehow. And those ones that are on checkout relief, let's give them 10 minutes notice to say, you need to be on the checkout in 10 minutes because we are predicting that a queue might start to build up. So let's avoid the queues completely, because by the time the queue is built up, you've got some customers who are already pretty miffed or may have already left. So let's think more predictively about the whole of our business. Let's look at things. Let's use video analytics. We've got cameras in the ceiling already. Let's use the data that's already in those to look at some of the things that are happening in the business, even the movement of staff and assets and totes around the business. We can do that already. And we can allocate tasks individually. And we can do the simple things like connecting staff with voice tools. Simply being able to talk to each other so that a staff front of store can use a headset to talk to a member of staff back of store and say, can you bring a product forward? That way, the member of staff front of store can actually carry on talking to the customer. Isn't that the way it should be? Rather than that member of staff saying, I'll go and find out for you, and they leave the customer. Let's rethink some of the processes we're working on. And the operations themselves. We can make the operation a lot more visible. Whether it's the tracking using RFID that Zara do, that Jerry Weber do to understand what products they've got, whether they are in the front of store, whether they're in the right place, whether they are in the fitting room or back of store, or even on the truck on the way to the store. Wouldn't it be fantastic if you're looking for a blue jacket and you can't find your size in the store, but the member of staff can say, yeah, I don't have any in store right now, but actually the truck is only 5 minutes away. So if you're prepared to wait, we've got your jacket in your size coming here in 5 minutes, and we'll grab it specially for you. That takes service to a new level. And I would expect you as a retailer to understand your business much better than I do as a customer. And yet, customers are coming in with mobile phones and probably know what you've got in stock and available. Let's give the staff a little bit more power. And the tools are there, whether it's video analytics, whether it's Wi-Fi analytics, to be able to draw these heat maps to understand the movement of customers, the movement of products, and the movement of staff. It's not just one or the other. So let's not just leave it to one team to look at technology. Let's understand how technology can help the business overall. Zebra works in terms of making things visible in a lot of different ways with a lot of different customers. So I'll give you an example now of what we're doing in the sports arena, again using RFID, but making, I guess, the data more available and more visible to customers.
In 2014, the NFL strategically selected Zebra's MotionWorks system. Using patented RFID technology, Zebra's innovative system automatically generates the most reliable and analyzable big data set in sports and produce real-time insights to assist in coaching and player evaluation decisions. Zebra's time-tested and proprietary technology has revolutionized real-time player tracking.
CBS Sports, in partnership with the NFL, introduces you to next-generation statistic groundbreaking technology that brings you to the screen never-before-seen player-specific metrics direct from tracking devices worn by every player tonight.
Zebra's real-time player tracking system during live game broadcasts now gives fans a new ability to see player participation, groupings, formations, route running, speed, separation, and new distance stats never before featured. The system also provides coaches with in-depth insights into players during practices, using data never before available to learn more about players' capabilities, develop more targeted coaching plans, and create specific training programs for guiding and monitoring player development over the course of a season and career, all of which will have a positive influence on how the game is played and how fans will experience it.
So is it about the technology? No. Is it about the data? No. It's about what that does for the coaches, for the TV crews, for the individuals who are sitting in the audience who are able to track and follow their favorite player, to see how fast they're running, to see who's working hard, and even compare that to previous games. So we have that technology set up at every single NFL stadium in the States. We also have it set up at Wembley in the UK because a lot of a number of NFL games are being held there. Let's not forget the supply chain. This is often the forgotten child, if you like, in the retail relationship. But the reality is, with omni-channel or one store or unified retail commerce, whatever you want to call it, you have to get your products to the customer, where the customer wants it, whether it's store, for either going into store to browse, or for click and collect at a store, or at lockers, or delivery to home. Your supply chain now has to be more agile than it's ever been before. So visibility in the supply chain is key, regardless of what technology you use to do it. Think about how to make your supply chain more agile, more visible in terms of both the supply chain through to the customer, but even more importantly in terms of cost, the returns process as well, because online businesses know well that customers tend to return products that don't fit, and that costs you money. Last couple of things, looking now at the future. So one of the areas we're looking at goes back to that very first video that Michael showed. It's the heads-up displays. But imagine if you gave your staff members in the warehouse a heads-up display so that rather than having to design a voice system or a computerized system that tells them what item to pick next, they're actually seeing effectively a sat nav through their eyes. and they're able to see where to go, and they're able to see how many cases to pick up or how many cases there are. The data is all there. Now it's just a matter of how can we put that into the hands or into the glasses of the staff to make it even more efficient than it's ever been before, because we have to drive some of the costs out. And then lastly, I guess another glimpse of the future, but technology that is being worked on right now will be more automation in the home. You've seen the Amazon Dash. Let's look at now how robotics might actually help in the home.
This is your house. This is your car. This is your toothbrush. These are your things. But these are the things that matter. And somewhere in between is this guy. Introducing Jibo, the world's first family robot. Say hi, Jibo.
Hi, Jibo.
Jibo helps everyone out throughout their day. He's the world's best cameraman. By intelligently tracking the action around him, he can independently take video and photos, so that you can put down your camera and be a part of the scene.
Jibo, take the picture.
He's a hands-free helper. You can talk to him, and he'll talk to you back, so you don't have to skip a beat.
Excuse me, Anne?
Yes, Jibo.
Melissa just sent a reminder that she's picking you up in half an hour to go grocery shopping.
Thanks, Jibo.
He's an entertainer and educator. Through interactive applications, Jibo can teach.
Let me in, or else I'll...
Huh.
And I'll...
Huh.
And I'll blow your house in.
Hey, where'd you go? There you are.
He's the closest thing to a real-life teleportation device. He can turn and look at whoever you want with a simple tap of your finger.
Check out my turkey dinner, Mom.
I wish you wouldn't eat that.
Hey, they make turkey pizza. I want turkey pizza.
And he's a platform, so his skills keep expanding. He'll be able to connect to your home.
Welcome home, Eric.
Hey, buddy. Can you order some takeout for me?
Sure thing. Chinese, as usual?
You know me so well.
And even be a great wingman.
You have a voice message from Ashley. Want to hear it?
Absolutely.
Hey, call me when you're home.
Better make that takeout for two, Jibo.
We've dreamt of it for years, and now he's finally here. And he's not just an aluminum shell, nor is he just a 3-axis motor system. He's not even just a connected device. He's one of the family.
Good night, Jibo.
Jibo, this little bot of mine.
So with that, I shall stop and just say that technology is being already developed. It's more now about the applications that go on it, much the same as our phone technology. So think about your business, where you want to take your business, have a vision, start to have a plan. Don't strategize the technology, strategize the business. The technology will fall into place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. Do you want to just stay there and see if we've got any questions that need to be taken?
Sure.
Can I throw it open to the floor? Microphone. Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, this is Muhammad from Yearning Cooperative Society. One of your slides were mentioning like to use the RFID to control the merchandise and control the inventory and all of those stuff. But especially for groceries, it will be so. We tried actually to implement such a solution, but we faced like for a smaller item, which is 5-10 dirham, it will, and we have to place an RFID which will cut off from my margin. So, what do you think about how we can control our merchandising using RFID in a better way without cutting the merchandise?
So I think, and it's a great question, because whenever you mention RFID, everyone says, you'll never put RFID on a bag of crisps or a tin of beans or whatever. And you're probably right. So this place to start is that whole question that you raised there. How do I get better visibility of my merchandise? Then you have to look at what type of merchandise you've got. So for some products, let's say I was a Tesco. So Tesco have clothing, and they also have all of the grocery. They're not putting RFID on any of the grocery, but they are looking at RFID for their clothing. So some parts of the business warrant it, some don't. You can put RFID at all different levels, so it doesn't have to be down at an individual product level. It could be at the carton level. Now that's where it might make sense, because you usually replenish to the shelf based from a carton on the smaller items. So that might be the box or carton, might be where you do RFID. It might be the pallet level or the case level, the slightly larger. So RFID can be anything from active, when we're looking at containers that are coming across the sea, through to the passive, where we start to think about warehouses, and then through to the stores themselves. So it needs a plan in itself. It's not simply a matter of saying, I'm going to put RFID chips on every one of my products, because again, that doesn't work. We're working with a retailer in France who's a DIY retailer. And again, they're not going to put RFID on every single bag of screws or nuts and bolts, because it doesn't make sense based upon the value of the product. But there are certain products that they know that if you go to that store and can't find that product, you will go somewhere else. I'll give you the example, one of the products they're looking at, light bulbs. My wife normally sends me to the store to buy light bulbs because a light bulb was blown. So if I go to the store and they don't have the exact type of light bulb that I need, I've got to go to another store. So I might as well do the rest of my DIY shopping at the other store. So what they're doing is they're making sure on what they call their anchor products, i.e. products that you definitely need to have in stock, they are using RFID to make sure the products are in stock, almost regardless of the value of the product, because having that product in stock reflects a much larger basket size than just the product itself. Hope that helps.
Thanks. Yeah, true. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
In the F&B world, you have QSR, casual dining, and fine dining. The more you go up in the scale, the less technology is used in terms of food. QSR, because the value versus money, and you have the experience, so you'll always keep on going. With casual dining, some restaurants are using tables as a menu. You can see it around the UK, whatever, but with time, the business cycle comes really short, because they are focusing more on the technology, not on the food itself. So that's why after 6 months or a year, people will not go there again, because they don't have the competitive edge. It's just an experience. And when you go to the fine dining, you can never find anything that has technology, because people need to understand what is the type of food, what they are eating, or whatever. So what do you think in terms of the future, in terms of these type of, are they going to continue in terms of, do you agree with me in terms of how the...
I do agree with you, and there's a strong reason why that's happening. So if you're going, and again, it's what we said earlier today about understanding your business, your customer, their expectations. So if I'm going fine dining, I expect the waiter to know everything about the food that's going to come out. I expect them to tell me how it's going to be cooked, where it's being sourced from. And that takes time. That's why you're paying the higher prices for the food in the first place. And I don't mind waiting for that food. So, and I don't really want to be interrupted by technology. I almost want everyone else in the restaurant to turn their phones off as well. But when we come to quick service and fast food, you now see McDonald's and Starbucks offering the ability for me to pre-order on my way to the store, because actually standing in the queue isn't quick enough. So I pre-order, I get there, they recognize me using an iBeacon, and so as soon as I'm there, it's prepared and it's on the shelf waiting for me. People like McDonald's looking at using beacon technology even in their drive-thrus and car park, because even a drive-thru is not quick enough anymore. So I've pre-ordered. As I get to the drive-thru, it recognizes using the beacon technology that I'm there, and all I actually have to do is pick it up, because I've also prepaid using the app itself. So it's about recognizing who your customers are, what are their expectations, and then applying the appropriate technology. It's not about saying, we've got a great new tablet computer, have a look at that and find out how you're going to use it in your business. That's the old way of thinking about retail. That's the old technology. That's the old way of IT teams sourcing bits of kit by going to trade shows and then coming back and trying to sort of sell those into the rest of the business, almost justifying their own roles. I think IT teams in retail now and in hospitality now need to be the center of innovation, not the center of IT. I hope that helps.
Okay, I'm going to take one more question if there is one, because we do have a technology conclave later in the afternoon as well that we can continue with. So one last question, if there is one.
So it's fascinating to hear about like this cutting edge implementations of technology and retail. What would be a local example?
A low-cost example.
A local example.
A local example here. There's a number of them. Let's take Souk Planet. The ability to understand that customers want to start doing things for themselves. They're used to using mobile phones. So actually the ability to walk into the store, the grocery store, pick up a device and scan your own products as you're going around, adding up how much you're spending, seeing any special offers on the device that you're using as you're going around. Because one of the problems of grocery shopping is you put your products into a shopping cart, you get to the end of the process, you have to take them all out again for somebody to scan them, then you put them back into bags or back into the shopping cart. Why don't we start to cut out some of that process, allow you to scan your own products as you go through that process and put them straight into your bags? Yes, we need to monitor the security of that, but you can apply that both to grocery shopping, so self-scanning there, but also to thinking about mobile phone scanning in smaller boutique-type stores as well. So thinking more about that shopping journey, even when we're in the store. So that's certainly fairly local. Beacon technology being used in exhibition centres in the region. So imagine, I guess, the next version of a museum. So the beacons next to every single exhibit or piece of art, tied into the app I've got in my phone. So as I'm walking around, it knows that I'm in front of this piece of art. It tells me on my app immediately more about that piece of art. It also allows me to add that to my favorites. It allows me to buy a postcard or a painting or an image of that piece of art. Or it allows me to share that work of art with a friend to say, I really like this. It changes the nature of the experience that I'm having. And I think retailers can do that as well in terms of thinking about the store as a place where I experience the products, not necessarily where I finish a transaction.
Hannes, one last comment from you.
Yeah, I think I can give an example what we saw on this Amazon thing, very local. At GITEX, Etisalat has launched together with RTA and Trolley.ae exactly that. If you go to the metro station at Mall of the Emirates, you can already order your grocery foods there with your mobile phone through barcodes that you scan in, and they will deliver it home. So it's already there in the Middle East. And beacon technology as well, everything around smart to buy, smart cities, it's already used and planned for at scale. Yeah. Because for tourism, etc. So it's already there. So it's nothing new. We're talking here, this is ready. Yeah.
Okay, so like this morning, this conversation is going to continue for a while. But Mark, we do have you back on in the afternoon as well for the Technology Conclave. So can I suggest we break for lunch? I'm sure everyone's a wee bit peckish by now. Let's not take 45 minutes, which is what we have on the program, but if I can ask you all to be back here in about 30 minutes' time, then we can try and get things back on schedule. So have a great lunch.